Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar today on AI intelligence for NetSuite with Cauzzy AI and OneKloudX. Before we get started, just a quick agenda. I'm going to be keeping it pretty brief today from my side, starting off with the general housekeeping rules before I then hand over to Josh for a Cauzzy introduction and a Cauzzy demonstration. We will also be hosting a Q&A at the end of the session, so please feel free to drop your questions as we go. Josh will try his best to answer any questions that are relevant during the demonstration, but otherwise we'll have some time at the end to clear them all up. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Ross Johnston. I am the Head of Account Management and Pre-Sales here at OneKloudX. And thanks everyone for joining today our webinar, which is part of our OneKloudX user group, or ONUG for short. With ONUG, we host monthly webinars that are all focused on maximizing NetSuite value, whether that's through the latest and greatest standard NetSuite functionality, or in this case, SuiteApps that extend that functionality like Cauzzy AI. We did host a recent webinar on the new 2025.2 NetSuite release titled AI Embedded Across the Suite. If you were unable to make that session but would like a copy of the recording from that previous webinar, then please comment AI in the chat just now and we'll follow up with a recording of that session. As mentioned, I am keeping it brief from my side today, and I'll be handing over to Josh, who will be doing a lot of the heavy lifting in today's webinar. And for those of you that don't know Josh, he is, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, a bit of a legend in the NetSuite community. He's the CEO and founder of Cauzzy AI, and he will be the presenter for today's session. I'll leave it to Josh to give a bit of an introduction to Cauzzy and lead on to the demonstration for today's main focus of the webinar.
Thank you. I don't know if I can follow that up now. There's a little bit of pressure, I suppose, but really nice to meet everybody. Thanks for joining this webinar. We're super excited to show you what we've got cooking over here. By way of introduction, by way of background, my name is Josh Lasav. I'm the founder and co-founder and CEO here at Cauzzy. I've been in the NetSuite space for about 14 years now. I'm actually an accountant by trade. I started out as a solution provider similar to OneKloudX, and I'm a certified NetSuite ERP consultant. I've been a part of over 100 NetSuite implementations. I like to make a joke, it may have been 99 too many, but here I am. And after doing implementations for a long time, I got out of that business and into the app side of NetSuite. I've had 2 successful suite apps for NetSuite that were sold to private equity in 2022, are still in the market today, all around data warehousing and reporting and data. And now we're back with our 3rd suite app, which is AI, arguably the most exciting, and super stoked to show you what we've been working on. So let's just dive in. And at any point, if you have questions, as discussed, just throw them in the chat or Q&A area, whatever's easier. I think chat's probably easier. And I'll try to answer them as we go, especially if it's relevant to what we're showing. Otherwise, we'll knock them out at the end. Don't be shy. Don't worry, you won't hurt our feelings with any questions. So let them fly. All right. We're not going to show you all the slides. That would be boring. Let's just do maybe 2 or 3, and then we'll jump into the actual product, which is the important part. So the business is Cauzzy. We're going to show you advanced AI agents and chatbots for your NetSuite today, and you'll see how they deliver unprecedented automations and answers. Know that we're SuiteApp certified. That's a big deal. We had a booth at SuiteWorld. We spoke at SuiteWorld. I think we're one of like 2 or 3 apps that are actually SuiteApp certified in the AI space. So it's a badge we wear proudly. I just want to show you one thing here on the left on this slide, and this is talking about data sources and how the data flows. So when we talk about connecting NetSuite and Cauzzy, we're talking real-time data based on your user and role. So when you log into Cauzzy, it's connected to NetSuite based on your user and role. So that way it retains security, again, real-time data, and also access to all your data. So we're talking 100% of transactions at line level, all your key record types, system notes, and most importantly, all your customizations. Additionally, we can scale that and start connecting other data sources, right? So this can be your one-stop shop for AI. So it could be applications, right? HubSpot, Salesforce, Shopify, right? You name it. Or it could just be flat files, right? It could be a static flat file like a CSV or an unstructured data file like a PDF. So yes, we start with your NetSuite data, and we can also incorporate other data sources because that comes really helpful with the agents, okay? All right, last slide, I promise. The reason our customers engage with us is they want to accomplish one or more of these ROIs. It could be revenue and sales growth, cost optimization, working capital improvement, process automation, or leadership enablement. None of that is new, right? We've all been striving for that since the dawn of time in our business. But how we can accomplish that is completely brand new, never existed before. And that's with chatbots and agents. And the coolest part, and we've got all types of pre-built agents, we'll show them to you today. But the coolest part is if I am working with an agent to help me identify opportunities to grow revenue and sales or helping me do it from an automation perspective, not only am I able to do more in the same amount of, in a significantly less amount of time, I'm able to do it more intelligently because AI can look at a lot more data. And I didn't have to add headcount. So I'm getting value from accomplishing the goal, speed, intelligence, and I'm also getting the value of extending myself without adding headcount, which is really important. All right, so let's dive in. So here we are, we're in NetSuite. You can fully use Cauzzy inside of NetSuite, fully functional, full experience, you name it. So if you want to use Cauzzy inside NetSuite, perfect. Alternatively, you can use it from our website. We don't care where you use it from. Same thing. It's just in our website. The screen's a little bit bigger, so I'll show you the demo from in here. So let's look at two primary things today. Let's look at the chatbot, and then let's look at agents. So they're going to be a little bit different. So let's start with the chatbot. So I'm going to open this up, and the chatbot is literally ChatGPT for NetSuite. So what you're going to be able to do is ask a question and get an answer, ask a follow-up question and get another answer. It's a conversation, right? This in 2025, this is what we expect. We want to have a conversation with our data. The alternative is you got to ask a question. Someone's got to go build a report or a search. You get the results. Now you've got more questions. So they got to go build another report or a search, and it goes on. And now I'm in Excel mashing data together. No one wants to do that. Right? They just want to be able to have a conversation with their data. And that's what chatbots let us do. Now, I'll show you an example. I'll show you a couple examples, but one example here, right? If I say show revenue for Q1, Q2 by month, I get my answer here, January 344, February 1.8 million, download that to CSV. But most importantly, these numbers are going to reconcile. Oh, yeah, logged out. Someone logged in. Pardon me. Oops. Of course, someone probably logged into my account during the demo, but give me a sec here. All right, there we go. So this 344 and this 1.8 million reconcile back to these numbers here. Now, this is important in terms of how we got here. So there's a lot of noise in the market about chatbots and agents for NetSuite. To our knowledge, we're the only one that reconciles back to NetSuite. The way we did that is we're not just delivering data to AI. That doesn't work. AI doesn't understand NetSuite. We painstakingly trained AI on NetSuite. And with that training and using all the bleeding edge AI techniques, things like RAG, retrieval augmented generation, we can get an accurate answer. And what that means is we're running what's called SuiteQL. For those familiar with SuiteQL and NetSuite, we're running that live on the fly. So ultimately what happens when I run SuiteQL is it's going to tell me, right, the code that was ran that's producing the final answer. Or here's a better example. So it's going to produce that and it's going to rerun it until it gets it right, or it kind of filters down to different things to give me what I need. And that's one way you can validate it. But this, again, is part of the training we did. Now, if you don't know SuiteQL, that's totally fine, right? Hit this explain button right here, and then it puts it in English for you. Okay, that's how we validate, make sure the data is correct. When you get your answers, it could be in the format of a table that you can download to CSV. It could be all types of key insights. and certainly can ask all types of follow-up questions. So let's take an example of this conversation concept. From a conversation concept perspective, what we can do is start to have that back and forth. So who are my top customers in terms of revenue in 2024, right? I get my answers. Delray Distributors, number one customer, there's their revenue, invoice count, etc. Again, can download that to CSV. And I also get all types of key insights of things that people are saying, our customers are saying like, hey, this gave me things to think about that I should have, but I wasn't. Or it further articulated ideas I had, but I wasn't 100% sure on. So now people are more intelligent and able to move the business forward faster. And if I ask follow-up questions, it's like, all right, what did my top customer buy? Talk about quantity, average price, seasonality. So that would now require me to build multiple follow-up reports just to get this answer. So I've got top items, monthly seasonality and trends, and again, all types of key insights, strategic recommendations, right, as well. And then my final question just went into transactions, just to drill down into some actual invoices here. Okay. So that's an example of kind of like a chain of questions or conversations that I can start to have with the chatbot. That is a huge productivity tool. Your questions don't have to be financial per se, right? It could be anything in the system. So, it could be operational. Like I asked about excess inventory based on quantity sold versus, quantity on hand, right? Or value and months coverage, things like that. And it came back with some, action items for me as well. So it could be operational questions, not just financial. It could also just be system questions. Like, I said, find all journals or vendor bills that have been created and approved by the same person, right? And I can see that I had one transaction and maybe that violates some segregations of duty. So it's quite expansive with what we can do here. You could also do other things. Like I could use files in my questions. So here I actually I used this to attach a PDF file that was a contract from a customer. Minimize that. And I said, create the CSV template that I would import into NetSuite. Ultimately, you can push it back to NetSuite, but create the CSV for me to review, and then tell me what are the key, tells you the key transaction details from the contract, tells me my ASC 606 performance obligations, built me my monthly deferred revenue recognition waterfall, which I could certainly download, right? Tells me my journal entries as well. So it can be pretty powerful and sort of create entries and automations that way too. Other people have done things like reconciliations, right? So there's just a lot we can do with the chatbot. Often everyone's favorite question about the chatbot is, my NetSuite's customized. How does it work with a customized NetSuite? And the answer is up here in settings. So in settings here, we've got this ability to fine tune your chatbot. What that means is you can upload a file that gives your chatbot additional context about your NetSuite and your business. So for example, let's say you're having to, every time you ask a question about your customers, you're like, you want to include 3 custom fields in the response. Is that a minimum? Load that as an instruction to the chatbot and it memorizes it and will include it therefore going forward. So this will give you the ability to further personalize and make it contextual, the chatbot, for your customizations and any business context you may have. Okay. I could spend all day on the chatbot. For the sake of time, I'm going to move forward and we'll go into agents. So we've got 15 pre-built agents. We're always going to be building more, as well as you guys can build all the agents you want. We've got a whole agent builder, and I'll show you that today. Ross can build agents for you and his team, right? Whatever the right process may be. You can share agents with each other, even once you build them across companies, which could be cool in a user group. When I think of an agent, I think of a person. It's like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing that I can have an agent automate for me? Maybe it gets at 80% done, maybe it's 100% done, or somewhere in between. But what can the agent do for me? Or what do I want to delegate that the agent can go do? Or instead of going to hire more people, can I give more tasks to agents? And that's really where people are seeing the value. It's an extension, right, of your existing team. Some of the use cases for agent, not all, are around accounting process. Maybe it's to do reconciliation. Maybe it's to do anomaly detections. Maybe it's to do entry preparation. It could be analysis automation. Why did my numbers change? Tell me why, right? It's not building a report to tell you your income statement, but with any report, you got to go figure out why my numbers changed. It does that hard part for you. Or maybe it's operational, like, identify my slow moving inventory, or help me optimize inventory, or look at my order to cash process, tell me where it's breaking down and having a negative impact on working capital, accounts receivable, and how do I improve that? So there's a lot of use cases, but let me show you a couple in real life here, and then we can talk about how you also build agents. Okay. And again, if you have questions or any of this, go ahead and pop them in. So let's start with an agent around, let's see here. I got a couple of examples I pulled up. Let's do anomaly detection. So anomaly detection is something accountants do, right? It could be weekly, it could be monthly, but they're always looking to explain deviations in the data. And that could be a lot of work, because how many periods of averages am I creating to create deviations? How many GL accounts, et cetera? So here, what I did with this agent, this anomaly agent, is I gave it a name up here for this particular session, because I can reuse agents over and over and just focus on them and give them a name. So for this one, I said, hey, look at 73 GL accounts, expense accounts. Let's say we're closing the books for December. Let's say I want to create averages to look at standard deviations and anomalies over the last 3 months. And maybe I'm looking at one or more transaction types. But now when I go in and I've asked for my top 20 positive and negative anomalies, because I have to explain and research these things. This is a lot of data, 73 expense accounts, over the course of 1 month, let alone now comparing averages over 3 and kind of sifting through everything, does it for me. So I can see my number one variance, and these is demo data, so the numbers aren't massive, but run with it. My number one expense is around, anomalies around facility expenses, right? And I've got a big anomaly there, and it's due to emergency facility repairs. Or if I go to the converse, I've got negative anomalies. So maybe I have things like regional sales travel expenses were down. Did someone forget to submit an expense report? Or marketing department consultant was down. Do I have a missed accrual, right? Did I not get an invoice in time to close the books? So this is something we're already doing. Let's automate it, right? This probably saves 90% of the process. And now I can just go do any research or entries I need to and be done and close the books quicker, okay? That's an example of anomaly detection. Another example could be operational. Like, let's say I want to look at, I said earlier, this example of like my order to cash process. And let's say I want to understand where it's breaking down and having negative impacts on my accounts receivable or my cash flow. So here, I'll just show you a quick example. The agent has all the data to measure and manage and monitor that process. And it's looking at every transaction and dimension of it, customers, items, right? Dates, department classification, subsidiary, right? Whatever dimensionality you may have. It's kind of starting to summarize that and bubble up the issue. So I can see some of my critical performance in this process area. I've got late shipments. Average fulfillment time is higher than where it should be. Invoice generation time, customer credits, and that's all having this cash flow impact of a daily delay of about 200 grand, right? So if I can improve it, I understand the impact. And then it breaks it down on a customer basis, builds me a little financial impact dashboard, talks about it monthly, there's immediate action. And I can even follow up with the agent and ask for some strategies and a roadmap, and it can help build that out for me too. And maybe it's like, okay, progressive billing and milestone invoicing, or customer specific AR management. And you can further chat with the agent to further define and get more details around these strategies, so that way they're implementable immediately, right? And again, this is looking at a tremendous amount of data to get there, your data. Another example of an agent could also be something like analysis automation, right? So we looked at accounting, we looked at something a bit more operational. Now let's talk about analysis. Let's say every month or you have to explain why gross margin changed, right? Or whatever key metrics you're trying to explain. So here I've got an agent pre-built all around gross margin. I'm asking to compare December versus November, explain the change by item, also look back a year. And then I can start to chat with the agent. Imagine if the CFO or CEO says, why did gross margin change? You're like, and tell me what to do about it. Like, give me a week. I'll get back to you. We'll have a really good conversation. But you need to know the answer now, immediately. So with this agent, I get first by asking what changes, what we call an artifact here, that explanation. So first it tells me what a reporting tool tells me, which is just the what, right? What did it change by? But then it does what an AI tool does and tells you the why. So the change was driven in my gross margin was driven by 3 primary factors. These will be supported below. I'll show you that in a sec. But strategic product mix optimization towards premium offerings, significant pricing power improvements, and operational efficiency gains. So we did have total units decline, but the company successfully shifted from volume to value with high margin products. And those 3 factors are then supported here below. Okay. Maybe a follow-up question. Okay, like we shifted from volume to value. So if sales go down, prices go up, run this scenario. What do I look like going forward? And I can get that answer, again, supported with more details from my data. What strategies do you recommend to further protect and improve gross margin? And then I get that and a roadmap again. Benchmark my performance against my industry. So I get that information using public company data. And then finally, before I go have a conversation with my CEO or CFO, summarize all of it, put it in one page. So within minutes of that question being asked, I've got this comprehensive automated analysis to go have this conversation. If it's 80 to 100% correct, I can sit down, I can still refine it. And now we have what we need to move the business forward today within the same hour, half hour, versus waiting a week or more. So not only can I move the business forward faster to get better results, I've also got deeper levels of intelligence, because when an analyst, for example, does this, they might look at 3 aggregated and subjective report pages. But here we're looking at hundreds of pages of data equivalent, which anyone would get paralysis by analysis from. So I'm getting the instant answers to hit my goals quicker. I'm getting the intelligence benefits, so all that productivity intelligence. And on the flip side, now I've got all this extra time to go implement and do other things, so I don't have to go add headcount. Okay. So those are a couple examples of some pre-built agents. When we talk about building agents, it's going to look a little something like this. If I want to create an agent from scratch, we're going to follow this workflow steps. First, you give it a goal. What are you trying to do? Then you can give the agent a name or have it suggest a name based on the goal using AI. Next is tools. So we use NetSuite. This is where you connect to NetSuite. There's other tools we can incorporate too. We can have an offline conversation about that. Files, if you need the agent to have any type of static file at this point in time, you can give it to the agent. You can also give it to the agent while you're chatting with it. But if it's going to always be used every time you run the agent, you can add it here. Parameters were what we saw in those examples of adding the ability to focus agents. So maybe it's a date parameter. So you build the agent once, and you can just change dates and things. Query is where you're going to add your data. So what is the agent looking at? Okay. Now, the data can be manually added using SuiteQL. If you don't know SuiteQL, the chatbot certainly writes it. So you can write it, ask there, or you can use our AI query builder. So you can actually ask a question. It'll write the SuiteQL for you and load it into the agent, or you can rely on Ross's team or whatever is appropriate. And again, all NetSuite consultants know SuiteQL. That's not a secret language. It saves searches on steroids. Next, you add instructions. So here you could have AI suggest instructions, and it would read your goal and your queries to do that, or you can just type it in. Go perform a reconciliation. Here's the data you're looking at. Here's what I want you to do. Think of it like you were teaching an employee for the first time. You don't have to be as verbose, but you would just document that here, and then the agent will have that forever. And then the final step here is the output. What do you want it to produce every time it runs? So you don't have to chat with it to get it to produce something. You can tell it every time I run you, no matter which parameters, how I focus you, produce something, right? Is it a report? Is it a table? What columns do you want? You can describe that here and it will do it for you. Okay. So that is an example of how to build an agent. So to summarize, before we open up for Q&A, we've got the chatbot, which is a very exploratory way to get through your data, the newest, fastest way to navigate through NetSuite. It's going to be really powerful because it's just text to answers. It's a conversation tool. And then you've got the agents themselves, which are going to be replacing tasks people do by giving them data, instructions, and telling them what the deliverable that they should provide you back with is.
Thanks, Josh. So we've got a question there from Michael. What is the key differentiator between Cauzzy and NetSuite AI Connector?
Yeah, sure. So the big difference between Cauzzy and NetSuite's AI connector is that our tool is trained. So NetSuite's AI connector is a cool tool, don't get me wrong, the MCP connector, but all it's doing is delivering data to Claude, right, or to AI. So that could be done through the MCP connector. You could download searches and reports, dump them into Claude. You could get data out using any other connector you want and put it into Claude. There's many ways to do that. But excuse me, and you're going to see a ton of businesses pop up that say, yeah, we connect to NetSuite and you can run a chatbot through us, but we also connect to every other data source. And the reality is the only way to get your chatbot accurate is to train AI on the data. So what we've done is painstakingly, like I said earlier, is gone through the process of literally training AI and providing all that training it needs, building all types of RAG and grounding agents and all types of stuff. I won't go too deep to get there. So if I ask the question, I know my answer returns the results. In Claude, I'm using the MCP connector and I'm asking the same question. Show me revenue Q1 to Q1, Q2 by month. And this is what it does. It says, hey, let's find the answer in a report. Couldn't find it in a report. Said income statement doesn't break down by month. I'm not sure I understand why. Tries to run SuiteQL and ultimately gives me these numbers. January's 486, February's 2.2 million. But if I look back in NetSuite, it's 344 and 1.8, which are the exact numbers we have here. So there's no knock on the MCP connector. I think it's a cool developer's tool if you want to go build some simple stuff, but it's not, but you're still gonna have to go train AI and if you're gonna actually use it at enterprise level. The other thing I tell people is just be a little bit cautious with using any web interface AI tool like this. By default, Claude, ChatGPT, they store and train on your personal data, your company data. Now you can turn that off, but they can turn it back on. So I'm not a fan of using company data, and I always recommend people don't use company data when they're going to use websites like Claude, right? There's other limitations, token context limits, and stuff like that. When we pull your data into our tool and pass it through LLMs, it's only through APIs. And the security that you're going to gain is by default, there's no ability for them to turn on training or storing your data. So you have that security in place. So there's limitations to using the AI connector in that you still have to do the training yourself. It's just delivering data as if you were delivering a CSV file. I think from a security perspective, I would just be very cautious using my company data unless I'm going through the API.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Josh. So no further questions at the moment. We do still have a lot of people attending live. So if you do have any further questions, please feel free to drop them in just now. Otherwise, if you would like some further information, and please reach out to us, and more than happy to set up a call between ourselves at OneKloudX and Josh at the team at Cauzzy to discuss Cauzzy AI in more detail and answer more of those pressing questions. So thanks again, everyone, for attending and taking the time to join today's session. Thank you, Josh, as well, for presenting today. I'm sure that's provided a lot of value to everyone that's joined the webinar today. So thanks again.